All right, folks, buckle up because we are diving headfirst into a wild one today.
Yeah.
A major winter storm is throwing a wrench into life as we know it here in Atlanta and North Georgia.
Right.
We're talking heavy snow, icy roads,
Oh, nine
the
yard.
whole shebang. You know those movie scenes where everything slows to a snowy crawl?
Yeah.
That's basically Atlanta right now, and we are here to unpack it
Yeah, I
all.
think what's really fascinating here is how this storm is revealing how fragile our daily routines really are.
Yeah,
Just how easily things can get disrupted when the weather takes a sudden turn.
right.
And we're going to be looking at the impacts on travel local services and how different communities are responding to this.
Yeah. And, we all know what a snow day in Atlanta is like, but this is not your average dusting.
No.
This is a full-blown winter storm warning until Saturday morning.
Right.
So let's paint a picture of what's happening out there right now.
Okay.
Heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain blanketing the region. And the roads, well, let's just say they're a bit more treacherous than your average rush hour commute.
I've heard it's pretty bad out there.
Mm.
And it's interesting how this kind of weather, while dangerous, of course, also seems to bring out a sense of community.
Oh, absolutely.
People are adapting and even finding ways to have fun in all this chaos.
Yeah.
Like we're hearing reports of people going to Piedmont Park for some impromptu sledding.
Oh, wow.
There was a photo going around that really captures this. We'll link it in the episode description so you can check it out.
Oh, yeah. I saw that picture. It's just wild to think about, a snowy playground right in the heart of Atlanta.
I know it is.
But as fun as a snow day can be, this storm is definitely causing some major travel headaches.
Oh, absolutely. Travel is totally impacted. And it really shows how interconnected everything is.
Right?
One big disruption can set off a chain reaction of delays and cancellations.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. One thing leads to another and the whole system is thrown off.
Yeah. Take Hartsfield-Jackson, for instance.
Mm.
They've issued a ground stop, and it keeps getting extended.
Wow.
So the airport's basically in a holding pattern, and no one knows when things will get back to normal.
And it's not just air travel that's been affected. MARTA had to suspend all bus services because the roads are just too dangerous.
Right.
They are running limited rail service, but even that's proving to be a challenge.
Yeah, and even the downtown connector, which is usually a river of cars, no matter what time of day it is
Right.
practically empty.
Really?
It's eerie, almost like a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie.
Wow.
You see those hero trucks out there trying to do their best, but it seems most people are heeding the warnings and staying home.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, smart move if you ask me.
It is, and it's interesting how those warnings and the level of preparedness varies from county to county.
Oh, yeah.
We're seeing a real patchwork of responses.
Exactly. Look at Paulding County, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They've declared all roads impassable, completely off limits. But over in Gwinnett County, the police are reporting tons of accidents and stranded vehicles.
I know.
And then you've got Spalding County, where they're strongly urging people to stay home.
Yeah.
But they haven't gone so far as to declare roads impassable.
Interesting.
It's like each county is operating in its own little snow globe.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
This storm really shows how local geography and resources play a role and how different communities can respond to these kinds of things.
Exactly. Some counties might have more hills or rural areas, making them more vulnerable to snow and ice.
Right.
And the resources they have for clearing snow and handling emergencies can differ a lot too.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this one storm is impacting different parts of Georgia so differently.
It is.
But one thing that's consistent everywhere is the Georgia Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
They're out there battling the elements like champs.
They really are the unsung heroes in these situations. Over 1,000 employees on call working around the clock to keep those roads clear.
Yeah, I read they're calling it plowing posture,
Haha. I love that.
which it sounds like they're going into battle, which in a way they are,
They are.
but even with all their efforts,
Right.
it's still a pretty tough job.
Absolutely battling those changing conditions.
Right.
They might start with treating roads with brine, but as the snow and ice pile up, they have to switch to plowing.
Right.
And plowing in a city like Atlanta, with all its hills and curves, is no walk in the park.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It takes serious skill and coordination to handle a situation like this.
Absolutely.
But amidst all the chaos and disruption, it's heartwarming to see those stories of resilience and community spirit popping up.
Those are the stories that really resonate.
Yeah.
Those acts of kindness and people bouncing back.
Right.
It's a reminder of how strong people can be even when things get tough.
Exactly like the Bohannon family from Calhoun. I saw a picture of them all bundled up walking their dog, Polly,
Ah.
and they seem to be taking it all in stride. They even gave a shout out to the city of Calhoun for their response.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that even in a big storm, there's still room for joy and appreciation.
And those moments are so important. They help us stay positive and connected, even when things feel a bit overwhelming.
Welcome back to our deep dive into this crazy winter storm that's turned Georgia into a winter wonderland.
Yeah.
As we've seen, this isn't just about, a few inches of snow.
Right.
It's a complex event that's really exposing how vulnerable our systems are and just how interconnected our lives are.
Yeah, it's like this storm is holding a magnifying glass up to society,
Right.
showing us how delicate the balance is and how quickly things can fall apart when that balance gets disrupted.
Exactly. And one of the areas where we see this unraveling most clearly is the economy.
Oh, wow.
Remember that snowstorm back in 20XX?
Mm-hmm.
The one that basically shut down Atlanta for a whole week?
Oh, yeah.
The economic impact of that was massive.
Huge.
And this storm, while maybe not as severe, is still raising concerns about potential disruptions and financial losses.
Right, because it's not just about businesses closing for a day or two. It's the ripple effects, you know?
Right.
Think about all the people who can't get to work,
Mm-hmm.
the deliveries that are delayed, the supply chains that are disrupted.
Yeah,
It all adds up.
it does. And some industries are going to be hit harder than others.
Oh, for sure.
Restaurants, retail stores, tourism,
Mm-hmm.
those are already feeling the effects as people stay home and events are canceled.
Yeah, it makes you realize just how vulnerable the economy can be to these unexpected disruptions.
It does.
And speaking of vulnerabilities, we got to talk about infrastructure.
Yeah.
We're seeing reports of icy roads, potential power outages,
Yeah.
even water main break.
Oh, wow.
This storm is really putting our infrastructure to the test.
And what's interesting is how this storm is showing us both the strengths and weaknesses of our infrastructure. On one hand, you have GDOT out there working tirelessly to keep the roads clear.
Right.
They've got the technology, the people that know how to handle these situations.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we have those vulnerabilities you mentioned.
Like those aging power grids and water systems that are more prone to disruptions.
It's like we're always walking this tightrope between resilience and vulnerability.
Right.
We have these systems to keep things running smoothly, but they're not always prepared for those curveballs Mother Nature throws at us.
That's a good point. And this leads us to an even bigger, more complex question.
Okay.
The role of climate change in all of this.
Right.
We're seeing these extreme weather events,
Yeah.
not just snowstorms, but hurricanes, heat waves, droughts,
Uh-huh.
happening more often and with greater intensity.
It's hard to ignore that pattern.
Right,
A few years ago, a storm like this might have been a once-in-a-decade event,
right.
but now it feels like we're bracing ourselves for them every other year.
It does feel that way. And while it's tough to definitively link any single event to climate change,
Yeah.
scientists have been warning us that these kinds of extreme weather events are becoming more likely as the planet warms.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
And it raises questions about how we're going to adapt to this new reality.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about dealing with the immediate impact of this storm.
Right.
It's about taking a step back and thinking long term.
Yeah.
How do we build more resilient communities?
Hmm.
How do we reduce the risks of future extreme weather events?
Exactly.
These are the big questions we need to be grappling with.
You're absolutely right, and those questions don't have easy answers.
No.
But I think this storm can be a catalyst for starting those conversations,
Okay.
for raising awareness about the challenges we're facing, and for exploring potential solutions.
It's like this storm is a wake-up call,
Right.
reminding us that we can't just react to these events.
Yeah.
We have to be proactive, innovative, and we need to work together to find solutions that'll make our community stronger and more resilient.
Absolutely, and those solutions are out there.
Oh.
We can invest in upgrading infrastructure, developing more sustainable practices, and strengthening our community networks to better support each other when these crises hit.
It's about thinking long-term,
Yeah.
not just weathering the storm, but building a future where we're better prepared for whatever Mother Nature throws at us.
Exactly.
But first, we need to understand how this storm is being portrayed and understood.
Right.
Because how we talk about these events shapes how we see them and how we respond.
And that's what we'll be diving into in the final part of our deep dive, exploring the media landscape and how all these different voices and narratives are shaping the conversation around this winter storm.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
Mm.
We've seen how this storm is impacting everything from travel to the economy.
Right.
But now we need to shift gears a bit And look at how this whole event is being portrayed and understood.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, in today's world, information spreads like wildfire.
Oh, yeah.
And understanding how those narratives take shape is more important than ever.
Absolutely. You're right. We are bombarded with information from every direction. Live updates, social media feeds official statements, personal stories. It's just this whirlwind of perspectives and interpretations.
Yeah. And navigating all that can be pretty overwhelming.
You can.
It's like trying to catch snowflakes on your tongue.
Huh.
You might get a few, but you're going to miss a lot.
Yeah. So how do we even begin to make sense of it all? How do we separate fact from fiction?
Right.
Well, it's all about developing a critical eye.
Okay.
Questioning where the information is coming from and considering all the different angles.
Okay.
Remember that snowstorm we talked about earlier? The one that brought Atlanta to a standstill back in 20XX?
Oh, yeah.
Well, think about how that event was covered. Some media outlets focused on those dramatic visuals, you know?
Right.
The snowed-in streets, the cars stuck in the snow, the empty shelves at the grocery store.
Yeah, those iconic images of people sledding down Peachtree Street.
Exactly. It was chaos, but also kind of exciting to watch unfold.
Oh, yeah.
But other outlets may have focused more on the human side of things. Stories of resilience, the community spirit, and those struggling to cope with the disruptions. The point is, each outlet picks an angle, a specific narrative they want to tell.
Right.
And those narratives can really shape how the public perceives the event and even influence policy decisions.
So it's like each story is a lens through which we view the event.
Exactly.
And depending on that lens, the whole picture can look very different.
Exactly. It's not just about reporting the facts.
Right.
It's about understanding how those facts are presented and framed.
Right. For example, a news report that highlights the heroic efforts of first responders might lead to more support for funding for those services.
Absolutely.
But a story that focuses on the hardships of people without proper shelter during the storm could push for better social safety nets.
Right. It all comes down to how the story is told.
It's a reminder that the stories we tell and the ones we choose to amplify have real consequences.
Yeah.
They shape how we understand what's happening, and they can even influence how we respond to similar events in the future.
Absolutely. And it's not just those big media outlets shaping the narrative.
Right.
Social media plays a huge role in how we experience and understand events like this.
No, definitely.
Think about all the photos and videos people are sending in.
Yeah.
Those glimpses into everyday life during the storm offer a real human perspective on what's going on.
It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at how people are coping and adapting.
Right.
And even finding those little moments of joy amidst the chaos.
Exactly. And those personal stories are so powerful.
Yeah.
They can really foster empathy and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they allow us to connect with each other on a human level, to see the world through someone else's eyes,
Right.
and maybe even gain a fresh perspective on the challenges we're all facing.
It's like building a bridge between the individual and the collective.
Yeah.
Connecting personal experience with a shared understanding.
Exactly.
And in a time where we're constantly bombarded with information from everywhere, those connections are more important than ever.
Couldn't agree more.
It reminds us that behind all the headlines and the statistics, there are real people, real lives being impacted by these events.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, let's take a minute to think about everything we've learned.
Right.
We've seen the immediate impact of the storm, the travel disruptions, the economic consequences, the strain on infrastructure. But we've also explored the broader context, the interconnectedness of all our systems, the power of narratives, and the vital role of community.
And maybe most importantly, we've been reminded that even in the middle of chaotic, unpredictable event like this, there's always something to think about and something to talk about.
Absolutely. Those conversations, those shared moments of reflection.
Yeah.
That's what helps us make sense of the world around us, to connect with each other and face these challenges together.
So the next time you find yourself in the middle of a storm, whether it's a literal snowstorm or a metaphorical one, remember the lessons we've uncovered today. Be critical of the information you're taking. Seek out different perspectives.
Yeah.
And above all, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay connected.
Well said.
Because it's in those moments of shared exploration and discovery that we really begin to understand this complex and ever-changing world we live in.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the winter storm that's hitting Georgia.
And that's a wrap for today's deep dive. We hope you found this exploration of the Georgia winter storm informative and thought-provoking. Be sure to check out the episode description for links to some of the resources and visuals we discussed. And if you're eager for more deep dives on fascinating topics, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with more insightful explorations soon.